So here we've got, I'm going to show you an example of painting on this fender. So I did get this trailer sandblasted, so that's how it was prepped. And I've gone back and, I've welded a bunch of stuff on. So all that weld spatter, I actually knocked it all off with my flap disc. And so you'll see a little different texture here and there. That texture really won't matter by the time you get your primer and paint on there. So you want to be sure you're starting clean. And also, I'm not going to keep these wheels and tires, but I might sell these wheels and tires or keep them for another project later. So I went ahead and covered these so that I'm not painting and priming these wheels and tires. So it's just a cheap drop cloth you put on there, cover them up. So you also want to be sure, that all your dust and anything that spider webs or anything that's accumulated. You want to be sure you're starting with a clean surface. You want some good bare metal for this to stick to. Doesn't have to be perfect, but the cleaner the better. Alright, so I'm going to use this Rust-Oleum automotive primer. That's what I'm going to be using, an aerosol can. You do have the option of, they make roll-on or paint-on, brush-on primer, or I'm sure you could spray that on, get a gallon can of it, and spray it on with the paint sprayer. I prefer the aerosol cans here just because they're convenient, but you do you. So I would advise when you're doing this, just get you some nitrile gloves. They're cheap and they're plentiful. Starting to get more plentiful anyway now that the pandemic scares going away or starting to go away. So anyway, and then get a good respirator. You get a decent one. This was like $20, $30, and they're more comfortable, and they will protect your lungs. Your lungs are very sensitive. So it's a good idea especially when you got these chemicals and stuff you're spraying around. I got the garage door open and windows open. Be sure everything's well ventilated. You can do this outside, would be perfect. And then we'll get to spraying. There's not an art to it. It's just, you're just covering the metal is all you're doing. And then we can go back. Anything that you mess up, if there's runs or whatever, that can all be sanded down later and touched up later. So don't really worry about that too much. So I'm going to get this primed. Already done some touch-up work on this, but there'll be some spots like you see this. This is where there was a little bit too much primer there and it ran a little bit, and you can barely feel that bevel on the edge of that run. And so all you do is you take a sander and sand that down. I'll show you how to do that. And you just touch up wherever you need, wherever it's rough or wherever it's got to run like that, you just touch it up. So now what I've done on that same spot is I took this sander with 180 grit on the slowest setting. It's on setting number 1. And I've lightly sanded that. And now, let me get my sander set down. And now that same spot, you can't even feel it. Even though you can see it just a hair, that's just a little bit of the stain more or less, but it's smooth as could be. So that thing will paint smooth.